Hello, for number 19, we are finding the area of the shaded region. If we look, we have two shapes that we are going to find the area of. The first one is a square, and then we are going to add on the area of the kite because those are the same. If we look, we have a lot of congruent parts that are all going to be 6, and that is part of the given information. So looking at this, we have a lot of side lengths that are 6. With that information, we are able to find the area of the square right away. The area of the square is going to be the side length squared. And if you remember the area of the kite, that's 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So for our square, we just have to take 6 squared. And if you just want to write 36 right away, that's okay. That will just save you some time when you are typing it into your calculator. Okay. So then next, looking at this, we know that we need to find the length of the two diagonals. And if you look, we have a straight line angle next to where the kite and the square meet, which means this angle in the corner of our kite is going to be 90 degrees. And if we look at just this triangle, we know what 2 of the side lengths are. We know that 2 of them are 6. And if we know that the legs are equal to each other, that means we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And we need to figure out what the hypotenuse is, which is going to be one of our diagonals. And because that's the hypotenuse and we have our leg, if you remember our formulas from our 45, 45, 90, the hypotenuse is equal to the leg times the square root of 2. And if you don't remember this, you can just use Pythagorean theorem to find diagonal 1. That'll still work because you know 2 sides of the right triangle. And then you would just solve for the hypotenuse. If you know the 45, 45, 90 triangle formula, that will just save you a little bit of time. So in this one, diagonal 1 is going to be 6 square roots of 2. So now we have that part of our equation. Now we need to figure out what our second diagonal is going to be equal to. And then we are able to plug that into our equation. Also, remembering back to our properties of our kites, remember that the diagonal that connects the two different side lengths is always bisected in a kite. So that means we know the full length is 6 square roots of 2, but half of it is going to be 3 square roots of 2. So if we were to add those together, we would get the full length of diagonal 1, which is 6 square roots of 2. So I'm just going to highlight that so you know this is where we got it from. It was from the diagonal 1. Now we need to figure out what the length of diagonal 2 is. So we are going to be looking at our other part. So for this one, we need to figure out what all of these angle measurements are going to be. Or, you know what, actually let's start with figuring out what this length is here. So that one's y. That's going to be part of diagonal 2. We know we have a right triangle, so we can go ahead and use this information to solve for y. So for this, we have to figure out what the hypotenuse is, which is going to be 10. So we would end up using 3 square roots of 2 squared plus y squared equals 10 squared. And you can use your calculator for this, or you can do it mentally. Remember, when you square this, you have to square both parts. So 3 squared would be 9 times, and then the square root of 2 squared would be 2. So that's going to be 18 plus y squared equals 100. And we would subtract 18 on both sides, and that will give us 82. And then y is going to be the square root of 82. And if we want to simplify that, we can, or we can just leave it like that because we're going to type it into our calculator later anyways. So I'm just going to leave it as that. Then we need to find the second part of the diagonal, which we can use, let's do this triangle on the bottom. So I'm just going to draw that triangle separately over here. We know that the hypotenuse is 6 and we have a right triangle and one part is 3 square roots of 2. We need to figure out what the missing part is. So we can use, again, Pythagorean theorem. So using that information, our hypotenuse is 6. So we would end up with z squared plus 3 square roots of 2 squared equals 6 squared. And we did 3 square roots of 2 squared already. We know that was 18. 6 squared is 36. So we'll subtract 18 on both sides to get 18. And then z would just equal the square root of 18. And again, you can simplify that if you want to, or you can just leave it like that, which means that the full length of diagonal 2 is going to be these two parts added together. So we're going to take the square root of 82, and then we are going to add on the square root of 18. Then we can just type this whole thing into our calculator to figure out what our final answer is going to be. Oh, sorry about my dog. So we have 6 squared plus 0.5 times 6 square roots of 2. And you want to make sure you're not underneath the square root sign when you are typing that in. 82 plus, delete that, plus the square root of 18 and parentheses. So that gives us our final answer of area equals 92.4 about. And I did a little bit different on my answer key. Again, this one has multiple ways to get the final answer, and this is just one of them.